Oh,
had some extra
I
money.
just started recording you, by the way, too.
Is this for training purposes?
Okay, that's actually a good question.
That's a good question.
I don't know. I might not even use it, but I don't know what the hell to do for my podcast today. So one other time when I didn't know what to do, I just called somebody and we talked. Hey everybody. Welcome to Creative Ops, a podcast for creative people by creative people. As I aforementioned there, I didn't know what to do this week. So I'm doing a review of some of the things that I learned from Joshua Marsella, both on the podcast and since the podcast, just some of our personal conversations. In some of our personal conversations, we talked about self-publishing, and some of the stuff that he had said was so well-researched and thought out and was working well for him in practice that I thought I should have him on just briefly again to go over, kind of the path that he's found in self-publishing, because it seems to be working pretty well for him. So if you're like me and you have written a book or you're working on a book, I'm working on my second one now, and you are exhausted by trying to find a literary agent or frustrated as all hell with the process of dealing with the small press. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with small presses, but some work better than others. Some are more professionally run than others, and it's all kind of a mixed bag. So it's a difficult landscape to navigate, especially if you haven't already done so. So I figured some of the advice that was coming to me that I am going to follow and that I respect the people that are giving it, in the name of the show and what the show is all about, I should be sharing that. Now, I don't know if you are a writer or not, but if you are, you might find this interesting, and if you're not, you might go, wow, I didn't realize what a business being an independent author is. So either way, I hope you can get something from it. And it's always fun to talk to my buddy Joshua Marsella, because he's a fantastic writer, a dope-ass human being, and somebody that I hope you will consider supporting by buying a book. Go ahead and listen to his interview, his full interview with me. We talked about a lot of stuff. Mental health, his experience in the military, post-military, being a dad, all that kind of stuff, along with, more of what you're going to hear in just a minute. I asked people on Twitter to encourage me to stop fucking around and get this podcast out. And Bill Davidson, the author of The King of Crows, The Orangery, and New Gods, Old Monsters, was the first to take me up on the offer. He said, "For fuck's sake, stop with all the fucking around and finish the fucking podcast, Christopher. It's nearly fucking Christmas." Check him out. He's on Twitter at Bill_Davidson57. Thanks, Bill. So one other time when I didn't know what to do, I just called somebody and we talked.
So I might, maybe, if I do good and actually make some book, because just for like work stuff, like formatting and shit like that for publishing, because vellum is a good investment. Like even my buddy who formatted Scratches and Severed for me for like the second editions, I don't know, it's usually depending on how long or stuff like that. Some people just do, but like if I was to pay $300, that's like the whole program in itself paid off right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's definitely, you made the right move, man. And if you had told me before you bought it, I would have said the same thing. Because that's, especially for when you're publishing your own book or you want to self-publish, that's the whole reason I just did, because things fell through with, but I want my book to get into like Barnes & Noble and stuff like that. So it just looks better when you have a press name attached to your book. You know what I mean? Like even if it's just self-published, Cold Hands Press looks and sounds official. So I actually paid Dave Dick $100, and he designed my logo for me. gave me a ping file, which is just a logo, nothing behind it. And then my buddy Freddie actually did an invert of the color scheme or whatever. So like on my black book covers, you can still see the image. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah.
It was, very simple. Like if you come up with an idea, like I just came up with the hand and the quill, the name of it. If you just tell someone that, they could probably help you. If you have like a designer or a friend or someone that does that stuff, it can definitely help you out. A lot of people do that. Like Catherine Silva just put out her book, Wild Dark, I think it's called, and she has the same thing. She did her own, I think it's like Strange Wilds Press, and it's like a cool fox logo. But she just self-publishes everything.
Yeah.
So, but I'm trying to get to that next step where even if I still self-publish, it just looks a little more professional, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I told you I'd pay for everything that goes with my book. I just need a logo on the back that makes it look more official.
Exactly. I mean, and to be honest, like once I started, like my buddy Ross, he was picked up by Cemetery Gates Media for his recent book. They literally use KDP. Their books look no different than my book or your book that's published through KDP. So it's like, so basically you're just going through a publisher for their formatting services. And to be honest, he formatted his own book too. Yeah. And with the publisher, and then they just basically have an editor they use. And then I think he even designed his own cover. So it's these days it seems like it's more for clout, and I kind of realized that once I went through it originally, because I'm like pushing them constantly to get this fucking thing edited, and yeah, they did pay for the cover, but I was doing pretty much most of my own promotion. What I've done with this book, way more than they would have even done through their official press, and I'm like, why did I even bother with this? But in the end, they let me keep the advance, they let me keep the cover, drop me out of the contract, so I made out on it, but that's not how it always works.
While I've got you on the line, I'm just curious, has being on my podcast completely changed your life?
Oh, absolutely. I look at life differently. I look at food differently. Everything is through a different scope. I recommend more people come on and experience the amazing, just the growth, the change you will experience from this podcast.
Cool. All right. I'll sign that check and send it to you now.
I've learned so much just in like the past year on what to do and everything. And I basically was already approved to have my book sold in my Barnes & Noble nearby. But what I had to do was publish it through their press, which is free. You just go to press.barnesandnoble.com, and it's just like KDP. You upload your manuscripts, your cover, all that stuff, and they'll review it. And if it gets approved, you set your price, all that stuff. The reason you do that is because they can't order through Ingram Spark, which is an expanded distributor. Ingram Spark is a print on demand. So if someone buys your book, they'll print it, and they'll send it to you. Barnes & Noble needs stock, and they can't buy print-on-demand books because they're taking a risk doing that, so that's why they started their own press. Indie bookstores are different. They're sometimes willing to do that because with Ingram Spark, you have a stipulation where if they can't sell it, they can send it back, get some of their money back, and the book will just be destroyed. But Barnes & Noble just decided, hey, we're big enough, we started our own press, so now when I publish my book through that press, they can now order it through their press and put it in their warehouse. But you basically, because I'm not super popular and famous, I would have to call each individual Barnes & Noble and say, hey, could you possibly order this book for your shelves? And I also called a couple indie bookstores in Maine and said, would you be willing to carry my book? And they looked on Ingram Spark and they're like, absolutely, we can do that through Ingram, no problem, whatever. So I'm just waiting on that woman that orders the books to reply to my email. But yeah, so that's kind of how it all works, but he didn't think it was possible. He's like, you have to have like 10,000 copies sold and whatever. And I'm like, no, that's not necessarily true. But it also depends on the Barnes and Noble, their purchaser, all that stuff. That's all part of the deal too. If the person is not very nice or doesn't care about indie people, then they're likely not going to do it. But the one I go to just happens to be really supportive of indie people. So
yeah, I've talked to a few different independent bookstores in Michigan, some on the west side, some on the east side, and they all are very like, yeah, when you got a book, let us know.
Yeah. And like in Maine, we have the store that I'm going to, Sherman's. They have whole sections of Maine authors and stuff like that, and they're very, very supportive. They're one of Maine's oldest bookstores, and I said, if I'll even come down and sign copies if you guys would be cool with that or whatever. If you know what I mean, if you did pick up some or whatever. So
I'll give out a free cup of soup with every purchase.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You got to be vigilant. You got to be proactive in these things because. Ask people. Like, I didn't know about the Barnes & Noble thing. I asked her. I said, how would I go about doing this? And she said, blah, 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 blah. All right, thank you. I'll do that, and I'll get back in touch. And if you do take the steps that you ask them to, like 9 times out of 10, they'll do it. Some people just want to give up after a no, and they're like, okay, thanks, whatever. You just got to push it. You're your own advocate. You know what I mean? No one's going to go out there and do it for you, especially being self-published.
Yeah, well, that's why I hope that this conversation, I wanted to record it. This is kind of more or less the second time we're having it, but I wanted to get it down on a file here because I think anybody who's contemplating self-publishing, the biggest thing that against it is like the stigma is already kind of gone. It's probably just too much for people that aren't business-minded already.
Yeah, and I've noticed like there's a lot of anthologies out there getting pushed out. People are always, I want to get in this anthology because it'll look good and this and that. And then you look up the anthology and 6 months later it has like 3 reviews. You know what I mean? Like it's to be in anthologies with people and stuff, but to be honest, it's just you're competing for the attention with all these other authors. That's why I usually do like 2 charity anthologies a year, and that's it, unless I'm invited to an anthology because I mean, you're competing with all these other people and you wait months to hear back from a submission just to make like a couple dollars in the end. You know what I mean? And if you put your own work out, you have fans they become dedicated to your work. You're more than willing, because it is a business. I mean, I like to do it. I do it for fun. But if I wasn't making any money off it whatsoever, I couldn't do it because I couldn't afford book covers. I couldn't afford all these things that, because you can do it for free, but there's so many awful self-published books out there that the covers just shit. They look like someone just learned how to use Photoshop, and you don't want that, especially with like your first book or your second book. You really want to put a product out there that competes with everybody else. You know what I mean? That is very important, that you come out of the gate and just make an impact in some way. And a book cover 100% sells. And if you know what I mean, like it does. You have to come out of the gate with something that's like, it doesn't have to blow people's minds, but it has to tell the story that you're trying to tell and convey. I don't know, you want to draw them in. And I've had quite a bit of success with my books so far in like my collection, and I'm really hoping.
Well, you're the first person. You're the first person that's been on my podcast that somebody else that was on my podcast called me up and was like,
"Hey, have this person on your podcast."
I was like, "Okay."
Was that Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon, the great Brandon Scott, who couldn't be with us right now because he's got other stuff to do.
Yeah, no, we've become good friends. Definitely consider looking to develop. It's worth the investment, especially, like I said, once you get good at a few things, like make a fake manuscript and then just try and see how you can edit it and, format it. And then once you get good at it, man, start putting it out there like Formatter on your profile, or say if anyone needs formatting services. And what I would recommend is look up like the average cost of like people charge. And if like the average charge is $100 per 20,000 words or $200 flat, or charge just a tiny bit under that. And you know what I mean? You'll still make money, but you'll more than likely get more people, you know what I mean, to come and pick up your services and stuff.
Yeah.
It's all business, man. It's just business. It's learning the ways of, saving $1 and making $1. I just looked at my proof that came in of my book. It looks awesome. I mean, it looks like it was professionally published, and that's what I'm striving for going forward, is people to look at it and be like, wow, this is like a nice book. Oh, Cold Hands Press, I'm gonna have to look into them, you know, like, and that's the point. Even if it's fake it till you make it, you know, if it works, you know what I mean? And who knows the difference? What is the difference? Yeah. I'm doing the same thing. I'm hiring an editor, hiring a formatter, all those same things. So that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm doing all this. Why not make my own press that I can put my own work through?
Yeah, it makes sense.
If I had waited like for someone to publish scratches, I'd still be waiting at this point, because it's not my strongest work, but it put me on the map, and now it's almost 300 reviews on friggin' Goodreads and over almost 200 on Amazon. And
now, how the hell do you get people to do that? Do you just have to sell enough copies?
It's just, you know, I'm really busy on social media. I post a lot. I support a lot of people. Originally I reached out, but I don't do that anymore. Now I just say, if anyone's looking to do, if any reviewers want a copy, please hit me up. Like, I don't do the whole begging game, but I'm very courteous to people. And it's just, I don't know, it's just part of the game, man. You just gotta, I don't know, to be honest. People ask me, I've had people that are really good authors, like 6 books in, and they're like, dude, how do you get so many reviews? I'm like, I really just don't know. I'm a real guy. I like to.
People just like me more than you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know why people buy my books and friggin' review them. Like, they're still getting reviews. Someone just reviewed Severed yesterday, and what's nice is they're like, yeah, you can definitely see the growth in his writing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It makes me feel good.
Yeah. Well, you deserve it, damn it.
Well, thanks, man. I'm really proud of it. Now there's audiobook versions, and that's another thing self-published people can do, is they can do audiobooks. They just got to learn, you know, how to work it. It's not hard at all.
What are all the different tools? You'd already said Ingram Spark, which is a place where you can go to get your books on a catalog where people can order them, like through stores and whatnot, right?
Essentially everywhere, Barnes & Noble, blah, blah, blah. And you can do hardcovers, you can do ebooks. But yeah, it's like a expanded distribution, and it's just another place where you can publish your books through. Because places can't go to Amazon and order your books.
Yeah.
But if you want to sell it like indie bookstores and stuff, Ingram Spark grants you that opportunity. And also, you can set up a pre-order for the paperback, which, because you did it through Ingram, it'll show up on, like, Amazon now for my book has a paperback pre-order because it's through Ingram Spark, which is another advantage of it, which normally you can't do through Amazon. They only do ebook pre-orders. So, yeah. And then, like, Ingram Spark does allow Barnes & Noble to sell it online. So if you go to barnesandnoble.com, my book is there, but it's order on demand or print on demand, which means, like, if someone orders it, they'll print it and send it to them, but they don't keep them in stock, and that's the difference.
I just want to make sure that we cover all the tools here for anybody who's interested in self-publishing. So we talked about Ingram Spark a little bit. I think most people already know about Kindle Direct Publishing. And if they don't, they should. And then also Barnes & Noble, like you had talked about earlier, and getting it in their system. So then once you're in Ingram Spark, KDP, and BN.com, then you pretty much got the market covered, no?
As far as prints, and one thing I do recommend is doing ebook exclusivity for
Kindle. My kids.
ACX.com is also for audiobooks, which is essentially KDP for audiobooks. And there's a whole process for that. But
I was talking over you there, too. You said ACX.
ACX, yeah. You just got to make an account on there, and then you can, there's a whole process. It's very simple, but you can get audiobooks made for your books, and you can pick your narrator, pick the style of narration, all the, you know, you do auditions. It's a whole different ball game, but it's very, very cool. And yeah, so both my books now, when you go to like Amazon, you'll see they have an audiobook option. And then there's also like other ones, but you really want to do your research outside of those ones because your royalties tend to dip. I've heard a lot of bad things about, and there's a few others but those are, as far as like really good self-publishing, you know, at least to start with, those are like some of the best. press.barnesandnoble.com, which is it's like a self-publishing. They have tools on there, and it's just like KDP, except what they can do is then you'd have to call Barnes and Noble and say, "Hey, this is my ISBN, this is my book. Did you order copies for your shelves?" And some say yes, some say no, but
That's the business side, eh?
yeah, that's the business side.
See you later, man.
Yeah, we'll chat soon. All right.
Sounds good, Judd. All right, man.
Take it easy, man.
You too.
Bye.
Later. Well, that was weird. I tried to say Josh and Bud when I was hanging up the phone. Came out with like Buzzard, whatever that was. Well, happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's out there listening. I'm very grateful for all my writer friends, Josh Marsella, Brandon Scott, Jennifer Susi, and TJ Tranchel. I'm so glad that you guys are out there. Bill Davidson, thanks for hitting me up on Twitter, buddy. Thank you to Hey Guys Media, particularly Jason Thierry and the guys over at Threads Podcast Life Unfiltered. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be podcasting. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody else, especially you folks in Canada. And, yeah, happy Thanksgiving, eh? Well, shit, no, Canadians don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Fuck. Bye, everybody. Yeah. Everybody who's listening, thank you for listening. Make sure that you check out Joshua Marsella. He's got 2 books out. He's on a couple of anthologies. And he's got a collection of short stories that comes out, I believe, 1 week from today or 1 week from tomorrow. So look for Joshua Marsella online and wherever you find your books. And thanks for listening. Oh, and also check out Brandon Scott. He should have been here today too, but he had other plans and wasn't able to adjust on 5 seconds notice. So thanks, Josh. Thanks, Brandon. And thank you for listening, folks. Have a good one.